So I am Bonnie of Yank Your Yarn. I don't have sheep. I don't have a farm. I make stitch markers. That's what I do. Um, and the reason why I started making stitch markers is because when I moved from Arizona to Kentucky, the moving company lost exactly one box, and that was the one that had my stitch markers in it and a few other neat things. So when I went to Etsy to find me some new stitch markers, the ones I got, I wasn't exactly thrilled with. The metal was really soft, they weren't exactly round, the beads fell off. And so I thought, well, I can do this better. Researched wire, found some good stuff, researched a really strong glue. And once I figured all of that out and started making my own stitch markers to my expectations, I thought somebody else is going to like these too. And so that's why I started Yank Your Yarn. Why is it called Yank Your Yarn? Well, it's because it's alliterative, it's short, and it's slightly naughty if you think about it in the wrong way. So that is the theme for my shop. It's a little bit wrong, but I certainly don't want to be right. So, um, I'm not going to show the regular stuff today because, first of all, there's only like a half an hour. So I want to show you some more specialized stitch markers that I carry here in my shop at Fiber Artist Market, as you can see right up there. So this first set of stitch markers I'm going to show you today are part of what I call the what the stitch markers. They are the identifier markers. So let me show you a little video that shows you what those are about. And there's several different kinds in there. So the ID markers help you keep your place, regardless of what kind of project you're doing. If you're knitting, crocheting, weaving, whatever. So the first one is what the stitch comes next. This is for knitting projects. They use standard knitting abbreviations for whatever it is you've got coming up next. Then there are the what the crochet hook was I using. These help identify what crochet hook you were using. Then there are the what the knitting needle was I using to remind you what size knitting needle you were using, both in US and metric sizes. And I'm going to go over all of these, by the way. And then the last one is what the row am I on? These are for weavers to remind you, or at least help you keep your place in your weaving pattern. So those are all the what the stitch markers. So let me just start off with the what the stitch comes next. Now, when you're working in a pattern, you have all of your instructions coming along in your pattern. And so when you're working along in your pattern, what you can do instead of just keeping looking back at your pattern, if it's a repeat or something like that, you can add these into your knitting to remind you of a knit stitch coming up next, or that in this particular area you have a knit two together, purl two together, purl. And these come on rings that are 6 millimeters to fit up to a size 10 knitting needle. Then there are a selection of them that come on 14 millimeter lobster clasps that you can move from one side to the other. In particular, your right side, wrong side. You know, a lot of patterns, you need to know which side is which when you're working. Or this one is INC for increase. In particular, I have found that the asymmetrical shawls, you always increase on one side, but not on the other. So you would hook this on to the side of your piece where you are actually doing the increase to remind you you work on that side, not the other. Then you see these over here, well, that have little naughty words on them. So these I call the oops stitch markers. These come on the lobster clasps for when maybe you make a little mistake or you've got a problem, and they just speak for you when you can't say the words out loud. This particular set is actually the censored set, and they also come in a uncensored set if you really want to let that flag fly with those cuss words. And all of these identifier markers in this whole section here, you can get them in sets of three, sets of five. You can mix and match. In this particular set here, the what the stitch marker comes next, the set of three, set of five, or all of the cuss words, censored or uncensored. And these are the prices on the Fiber Artist Market webpage right there. So they're really easy to pick and choose which ones you want. With those, you can also request any particular abbreviations you might want. I am limited to how many letters I can fit on there. It's about six before it starts getting really kind of long and unwieldy. So that's when I just kind of cut that off there. So those are the what the stitch marker or what the stitch comes next. The next one in that set are the what the crochet hook was I using. So you know that when you crochet something, um, that you don't well, this crochet hook doesn't stay with your project, right? It jettisons itself off the project, and it's in the sofa cushions, it's behind your ear if a dog has taken it. So what these are locking markers that have the more standard sizes of your crochet hook on the charm there. I have D through M, and those are probably some of the more standard ones. I've got my phone upside down, so it's a little bit hard for me to see what I'm doing there. They are on this locking earring hook here, so that they stay nice and tight in your project. Um, Now, of course, because they are the earring hook, you can obviously wear them in your ears if you have an initial that starts with a D or goes through an M. I will say though, this little earring hook, this is not fine 14 karat gold jewelry. It is costume jewelry rated. So if you have a sensitivity to non-precious metals, don't put this in your ear. So the way that the crochet hook markers come, the same way as all the other identifier markers, you can get a set of three, set of five, mix and match the way you want. If you use mostly F's and G's, you can get F's and G's. However, if you want the set of all 10, as you saw here on the little ring, that is $15 for a set of all 10 of those. And so those will help you remember what size crochet hook you were doing. So the next item in the, I'm sorry, in the what the markers are going to be the what size knitting needle was I using? And these come in several, well, they come in sizes that start all the way from US 00 all the way up to US 17. And then I also have them in the millimeter size if you prefer the metric. Uh, so those sizes in millimeters from the corresponding 00, which I believe is 1.75, all the way up to, I believe it's 13 millimeters for US size 17. So you can see here, those are the US sizes shown here in 00 up to 4. The corresponding millimeter size is 1.75 up to 3 millimeter. And what I'm actually showing you here are the curated set of 6. And so what I've done, you can buy these again, as you want them, set of 3, set of 5, but with the what the knitting needle was I using, they also come in curated sets of 6. So these are your really tiny needles for the sock knitters. Then there's also the sets that are like what I call the middle of the road, and that is like size 4 through size 10 US sizes, and then what I call the tree trunk needles. And those are size US 10 up through US 17. Now, why would you use something like this? Well, if you're like me, I use interchangeable knitting needles. And sometimes projects go on for a lot longer than I expect them to. And so I have to harvest needle tips. And so this would be useful for putting on your project to remind you, oh yeah, that was a size 7 that I was using on that project. Also, if you are a good knitter and do gauge swatches. I'm not saying people who don't do gauge swatches are bad. I don't do any stinking gauge swatches, but I make shawls. So there you go. But if you do multiple gauge swatches, you can use these to mark your gauge swatches to remind you that was a size 7, that was a size 8. That's the difference between the two. So that's a good reason to have these around. So that also does make it really handy. These are also on earring backs, so they'll lock really nicely into your project, just like the crochet hook ones. Also, if you have a yen, you could wear them as earrings. Again, not precious metal. So be careful if you put them in your ears. So those are the what the size knitting needle was I using. So the last ones in the what the category are the what the row am I on for weavers? And I actually made these as originally as a request for a friend of mine who does weave. And she said, Bonnie, I need something to remind me what row I'm on because she started, she watches Supernatural. She gets all excited about the Winchester boys and she forgets what row she's on. So, what she asked for was something that she could lock into the edge of her woven piece to remind her, okay, that's where I started. I need to do X amount of rows before I change color. So that's what I came up with. Again, these also lock into your project with the locking earring back there. They come in a variety of colors as well as number rows. Say you do multiples of 10. These will be very handy for that to remind you, okay, I've done 10, we're up to 20, 30, 40, and so on. You could also get these in custom numbers on the product listing on the website. But like I said, there's a variety of colors that you can get with these, and then there's also I can do dealer's choice. That will be my choice. You get what I send you. But these come in a set of 5, and I'm pretty sure that the price of these, that is $10 for the set of 5 for weavers markers. And, again, what good are they? I'll just hold on just one moment and let me pause that. So, but here, Chicky Knits Yarns, by the way, she makes cute woven stuff. That's how she uses them to remind her, oh, I've gotten this far. I need to change as she moves along. So those are all the what the stitch markers that I have. So a little bit more specialized than your regular round or the unusual shapes that I tend to sell in my shop. So the next thing I want to show you, we're doing okay on time. Yay! The next thing I want to show you are what I call the supersize sets. And the reason why I started doing supersize sets is specifically of a particular designer who we all love. And he comes out with a magnificent new pattern well, a lot actually. But in the fall, he usually does a uh, secret, mystery knit along extravaganza that's really, really huge. And the last one he did in the fall used 54 stitch markers, which okay. Yeah, I have 54 stitch markers laying around, of course, because I make the things. But, there's sometimes when you need a crap ton of stitch markers. So I started making these supersized sets of snag-free stitch markers, sets of 30 in a handy storage tin, just like it says there. And so I was making these in both round and in square. My flagship product there, you can see the square stitch markers, but I was making these, I still do actually, multiple colors. Any of the colors that you see there, you can request as well as a multicolor mix in the round stitch markers, but then in the square stitch markers, I have a variety of sizes available in silver with neon beads there, and they do fluoresce in black light. So again, multiple sizes available in the round and in the square. And they do come in that great little tin that you saw there. So just to show you on the second camera, there we go. There's the tin with the set of 30, in case you're wondering how many 30 are. Those are the square stitch markers in a size 3. But then here are the 30 stitch markers in the round multicolor in a size 10. Again, they come just like this in the little tin. You can custom request whatever color I have available in the round ones or in a multicolor. In the square ones, they come just in the silver color, but with these fabulous fluorescent neon beads, and they do glow under black light. So if you're knitting at a rave, you'll be able to see what the heck you're doing. So those are the supersize marker sets. And they are, I think I've got a price slide coming up for them. There we go. $22 for the set of 30 on those supersize sets. Now, the question would be, why on earth would you want a square stitch marker? Well, aside from the fact they're really, really cool, there's a really good reason for that. The thing is that when you have a round stitch marker, they move past those yarn overs, don't they? Square stitch markers, because they have the little corners, they stay in place. I'm sorry, I keep going back to that screen and I don't mean to. It's not usually on top like that. So just like you saw there in the picture, the round stitch markers, oh dear. Okay, so here it is, the round stitch marker that you can see there. Well, if you've got it next to a yarn over, you move this around a lot, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, it's on the other side of that darned yarn over, right? But with these square stitch markers, they stand out a little bit more proud from your knitting. But the very fact that it has these corners on it keep it from moving past that yarn over. So pretty handy there. Now those are the super size sets in a tin, and those are available on the site. A lot of variations available in those. If you have a certain color that you like, um, let me know. I can custom make those for you real easy. So those are the super size sets in a tin. Now, the last thing I was going to show you today seemed to be moving a little bit quicker than I intended to. That's okay. The brand new thing I have just added into the shop are chain row counters. So let me show you those. There are multiple sizes available in those. So we move along here. Chain row counters. What I've done is I've actually used the square links to make these chain markers. And how the heck do you use one of these things? Well, I'll show you. They're really easy to use and they're actually kind of fun. And they make a fun little piece of jewelry for your yarn. And like I said, they come in multiple sizes. There's the US 3, US 6, and then the US 8 in the square markers. Then I also have them in these fabulous cat-shaped links. And the way these chain row counters work is that they go up to 109 stitches. So let me show you on the second camera. Just ignore that stuff off to the side. So I'll just throw this knitted piece down here like this. So what you've got, let's say, well, okay, you're going to be on row 5 as you're moving along. Well, the way it works is that you can see here that there is a link to the left of each number. So the row that you're on, to the left of that number of the row you're on is the link you would put on to your knitted piece. So if you're on row 1, there's the number 1. The link to the left of that number is what you put on your needle. Then you use the little lobster clasp here to actually attach this chain to your knitted piece so it doesn't go flying off the end of your needle. And as you go each row, then you move it to the next link, to the left one for 2, 3, and on down the row. But Bonnie, what happens when I get to row 10? Well, that's that one right there, and there's your number 10 right there next to the 0. But what happens when I go to row 11? Well, here's the thing. These come with a progress keeper on the lobster clasp, like that. Then what you do is that this actually counts your numbers of 10. So when you're on row 11, what you would do is you would actually attach this into the little link right there. And so that shows because it's right next to the number one in the link for number one. And so not only are you on the row one, you're also on the row 10. Okay. So that would be row 11. If you're on row 21, you would move this little thing, if I could get it loose, come out of there. You would move that down here and it would attach to number two. Or if you were on number 40, 41, it would be down here attached to the link next to the number four and on down the row. And so that way you're able to count to 109 stitches using a chain row counter. And the other fun thing about something like this is that you could actually wear it as a cute little bracelet when you're actually not using it. So that would be a lot of fun. And that's how you use a chain row counter. Now, I did show you in the pictures that I also have the chains not only with the square links, but also with the cat-shaped links. Here we are. This is the cats in the cradle again. I don't know what the cat did with the silver spoon, but we better look for that darn thing. And so the links that you'll put on your needle are the little cat shapes there. So there's your link number one right there, but it got the cute little cat ears on them, and it has a cute little kitty cat there on the end. And so this is the other variety of chain row counters that I have available at the moment. These happen to be size 10 and a half needle. They'll fit up to a size 6.5 millimeter. So if you have a slightly larger needle, these would be really good for that. But also if you love cats as much as I do, that will work out really well for you. So those are the chain row counters. And they're just a lot of fun just to have because they are really cute. But they do make a really great tool for your knitting basket. Instead of maybe just making hash marks on the paper, you got that really pretty chain row counter there. And those are, let's see if it comes up. That is $18 for the row counter. It comes with the chain and the progress keeper. It comes all together, $18 packaged, just like you saw there on the other camera. And so that was really the main thing I wanted to show you all today, were those items. Because, well, they're relatively new and they're a little bit more specialized than the rest of my stitch markers that I have there in the shop. Now, of course, I do obviously still have all of the regular stitch markers that you know and love. Of course, the classic round markers, you know, multiple sizes in there, starting from a size US 1 all the way up to a size US 15, all with great colors and snarky little names. They are snag free. Those beads are not going to come loose. I have used the finest wire that I possibly can so as to not add bulk to your knitting, but will also maintain their shape. I do hand coil all of these, and they come, as you can see there, in colors from white all the way up through black. Now in the, well, that went weird. In the, oh my heavens, hold on just one moment. I'm so sorry. That ended up really weird. So the classic round stitch markers are still there. They are 6 for a set of 10. The other main variety of stitch markers I have in my shop are the ones called the stitch markers of unusual shapes. I'm not quite sure what is happening here. Let me move on past that. Oh, I know what happened here. Okay. Well, never mind. I was going to show you something and now I'm not. I'm terribly sorry.
Technology, huh?
I
Technology.
know. I know. It's what happens when you try to do things completely on the fly. But anyway, the best way to look at my stuff is to go to Yank Yarn at the Fiber Artist Market. It's really easy to find. It's right there. I mean, there's not too many shops out there called Yank Your Yarn, crying out loud. I hope there's not. I hope there's only one. But that is what I've got in my shop. It's not yarn. It's not fleece. It's not roving. It's not sheep. Stitch markers. So when you need stitch markers, I hope you come in and visit Yank Your Yarn. And that is all I have to show you today. So I
Well,
appreciate your coming.
when we do all our knitting and weaving and crocheting and all that stuff, we need stitch markers, and I love that row counter. I haven't seen it before, and I'm a terrible row counter, so the number of
Hopefully.
Valentine's gifts I have purchased for myself today is growing rather high. Um, but I
So yeah,
think that,
something shiny will make you count your rows. I will say that.
yeah,
And I know for a fact that well, as far as I know, I'm the only one out there with square linked row counters. So again, with that row counter being square, it's not going to get that lost in the lace knitting there.